Welcome to Move, Sweat, Discover, the podcast where fitness meets self-discovery. My name is Avey, and today we have no guests. It's just me and you, and a whole bunch of questions that have been asked by my previous guests of the podcast. So we're just going to dive in. Question number one is from Victor Chow from episode 4. 26 episodes. Wow, what an achievement. What's the biggest lesson so far? And what would you tell to your then self now knowing what you know? Well, I think the biggest lesson so far is that it's a lot of work. I think that I hadn't really realized how much preparation goes into it. I thought I would just rock up having known the guests a little bit and just ask them questions that I've been dying to ask them anyway. But a lot of preparation goes into the research on their background, finding out how comfortable they are, how open they're willing to be. Luckily for me, they have been all very open. And I think that what I would tell myself is probably don't compare yourself to others. I think part of my research in producing a podcast is listening to other podcasts. And in that process, I tend to kind of compare my show to other people's shows and see if I am up to par. But that is something that I will definitely try and avoid in the future. Victor also asks, what have you learned from all of us guests? I think I have learned to be more open, actually, to be more curious. I can get stuck in my ways. So, Monday I will teach a HIIT class. On Tuesday, I will do my family form class. On Wednesday, I will do yoga. And I think that that's good for me. But in a sense, I've kind of lost a little bit of playfulness and curiosity about movement, which is, my whole purpose for this podcast. Move, sweat, and discover. Kind of sweat, connect, and grow, right? Connect to yourself, connect to your mind and body, and learn about yourself. So I've definitely learned from each of the different guests. I learned from Brian how to breathe properly. I learned from Andrew how to be more curious and playful with your workouts. So I've taken something away from every one of the guests. From Nima King in episode 12, you have been involved in the movement scene of Hong Kong for a long time. How have you seen it change in the past decade, and what would you like to see more or less of in the future of movement, health, and fitness? I would like to see more community and more connection, which I feel like is happening right now. We see a lot of run clubs. We see there's High Rocks. There's a lot of social fitness initiatives, which is beautiful to see. I think in Hong Kong, there has always been a sense of competitiveness. And, in the group fitness landscape at the moment, it's hard. It is tough. So I kind of understand that. I think that I would like to see less of a fear around collaborations. I think it would be a beautiful thing to see a yoga studio collaborate with a strength studio, for example. I would like to see, a Pilates studio collaborate with, a DJ, for example. So I think that there can be a lot of growth within connection. So I'd love to see more of that in our boutique fitness scene. He also asks, what motivated you to start your podcast, and what would your dream be for it to evolve into? I've always said with this podcast that I have aspirations, but no expectations. So, a dream would be to go on like a podcast tour, for example. I've seen a few US podcasters do that. To connect with guests live on stage, to connect with the audience and have that interaction would be amazing. I would love to have this podcast sponsored. I would love for this podcast to just kind of like get people to listen to it and reach people and to connect with people. And that's been the purpose of this podcast in the first place. So I always still maintain that aspirations, but no expectations. From Amanda Kaskar, episode 11, she asks, you've shared with me about how much purpose you find in teaching the domestic helpers. What do you want the world to know about this community and your work with them? I started the Sweat With Us initiative because I felt that the domestic worker community in Hong Kong were very largely underserved and that fitness should be accessible to everyone. So we were doing it during the pandemic where we needed connection the most. And it started with 10 ladies, and now we've grown to over 800 ladies, which is a beautiful thing. I want people to know that they are the most smiley, the most friendly, the most open and welcoming people, that they love to move, they love to dance, they love taking a selfie, and they love taking photos. all of the ladies together to move and, like I said, to sweat and to grow. And even if they just come to one workout, I think that they are affected in some way. So yeah, I would also like the community to keep going forever, on and on, on and on. Ryan Mannix from episode 13 asks, who is currently inspiring you in the movement space and why? I would say that my team every day at Family Forum inspire me. So I'm the only guy out of 6 or 7 ladies in the Hong Kong team, and they're all more flexible than I am. They're all like more graceful than I am. So it's really taken me a while to kind of find my groove within the space. But every time I work out with them, every time I watch their content online, I am motivated and inspired by them. I also like in the kind of entrepreneurial space, I am also inspired by anyone that's kind of running a small like boutique gym, or anyone running a gym for that matter. The Coastal Fitness Boys. Yeah, I know that running a gym isn't easy. So hats off. Hats off. I think in the worldwide space, in the global space, I would say that I'm inspired by Tracy Anderson. She does something similar to us, and Aquino from Army. He's just a beast. So I'm super inspired by him. Where in the fitness community do you see yourself in 10 years? Asks Ryan as well. What's a goal you would love to work towards? I've always imagined myself owning a small space, a small movement space. I don't know where that would be in the world. I don't imagine that it would be in Hong Kong, probably in some little corner of the world. Yeah, just running it through my passion, through the love of movement. I would love to be able to continue to inspire people to move, to sweat. And yeah, that is my goal. Vrico Kwok asks, what keeps you moving? Because we are all humans, and there are days that you would feel demotivated. What is your why? Movement to me is non-negotiable. I feel a lot better physically, mentally. I'm more focused whenever I move. If I spend a couple days off not moving, I feel a little bit weighed down. I tend to let my thoughts get ahead of me. I get a little bit more stressed. So movement to me, just that hour of the day, even half an hour, whatever time I can fit in to move, means the world to me. It is imperative that I move. My why is because it keeps me going. It makes me feel alive. She also asks, if you could go back to the beginning of your fitness journey, what would you tell Avey? I think at the beginning of my fitness journey, I mean, I've always been relatively active. You know, as a kid, I was playing sports and doing a lot of running. But I think that I entered like the real kind of fitness space, like going to the gym and working out with the purpose and intention of looking good, as you do in your 20s. You know, you kind of want to like fit in. So I think that I would kind of tell myself that to forget about the looks and the aesthetics. And obviously, you know, that's a perk, but I would kind of tell my younger self to kind of focus on how it makes you feel, and what I can learn from myself through movement. Lindsay Jang from episode 3 asks, you've asked many of us about morning routines and rituals. I'm curious, what's your own non-negotiable morning habit or routine that sets the tone for your day? I was thinking about this morning, actually, when I was waking up. And the first thing I think of quite regularly is, and this is not an ad, they haven't paid me or sponsored me, but AG1. I always think of AG1 because I always try to remember to take it first thing in the morning on an empty stomach, because it helps with like my bloating, it helps with my gut, my digestive system. It kind of helps keep things on track for the rest of the day. But aside from that, what sets the tone for the rest of my day is I will almost immediately, as soon as I wake up, I will play a guided meditation track, and I will remain in bed for the 5 or 7 minutes or whatever it is that the track goes on for. Then I get up and I go out on my terrace. I have some water. I go out on my terrace, and then I play another guided meditation track. So the first guided meditation track is usually just to wake myself up. And then the second one is more about positivity and your mindset for the rest of the day. And so those two things really kind of help set the tone for my day and help kind of kickstart a positive mindset for me to go, I can mindset and attitude. Lindsay also asks, knowing how passionate you are about movement, was there ever a turning point or major shift in your personal relationship with movement and fitness? I'd love to hear about that moment and how it impacted your journey. I don't think that there was a major shift with my relationship with movement and fitness. I think that it's always been a relative constant, but I think that perhaps where it came so prevalent in my lifestyle was just knowing and recognizing that it helped a lot with like nerves and anxiety. And so I would recognize that it would make me feel amazing. The endorphins would be rushing. And as a teenager, I would quite often, get stuck in your own head quite a lot. And so it was like almost like a drug. It was just like this constant thing of having to move to feel better. And I've carried that throughout my whole life, really. Clark Chung asks, how do you view your mixed race identity? So I am part Thai, part Filipino. There's some Danish and Spanish thrown in there, so that's a bit of a mix. To be honest with you, I don't really identify hugely with any of the four, to be honest with you. If I had to say, it would mainly be Thailand and Philippines, just because they're both in Asia and they're on our back doorstep. So I've been to Thailand last month. I was at the Philippines earlier this year. Yeah, I don't know. I get asked this question quite a lot, but yeah, I don't really identify with any of those four hugely, but it is, I guess, a unique part of my makeup. So I kind of lean heavily on that I am a mixed raced child. From Brian Lai in episode 11, he asks, what do you think is the most important to support mental health in an environment like Hong Kong? What are your own practices and self-care? I think what is super important for mental health is the support of your community. I've always been someone that has been afraid to ask for help and thinking that I can do it all by myself. But what I learned, especially during COVID, was to lean on the support of the people around you, your network. And so I am a big advocate on being vulnerable around the people that you love and trust. In terms of my own practices, so just to go on the same track, I will do a regular therapy session, maybe twice a month or 2, 3 times a month with a therapist online. And I just make sure that I self-care the shit out of myself, really. And that includes movement, eating well, staying curious about myself and staying curious about others. And yeah, just trying to block out the noise because Hong Kong can be quite an overwhelming place. I take a lot of time for myself. I am someone that likes my own company a little bit too much sometimes. So I can just kind of lock myself away in my apartment, reading, watching television, doing me stuff. And I know that that's the complete opposite end of having support from your community. But I think that the balance of those two aspects work quite well for me. The same question has come up from quite a number of my guests. So from Brian, from Ziggy, and from Jack. So they ask, can you name one pivotal time or moment that movement got you through a challenging period of your life? So speaking on self-caring the shit out of myself, I went through a divorce 5 years ago, I believe it was. And, at the time, it was the worst thing in the world. I'd taken a lot of time to think about marriage and getting there. I grew up in a single parent family. And, was also surrounded by a lot of divorces. And there was always like a new girlfriend or boyfriend from one of my family members at our family gatherings. So it wasn't a new thing to me. I'd grown up around a lot of breakups and divorces. But I would say that during that time, a good friend of mine had mentioned to me that when they went through their divorce, the one thing that they stayed focused on was themselves. And so that really kind of stuck with me. And so I just made the conscious decision to move at least twice every day during that period. So one time would be a very heavy session, I would say, like a strength training session or a HIIT session or a run. And then the other session would be like more of a yin to balance out that yang yoga meditation. And I did that consistently. I'd say 6 months. So I felt great relatively. Looked great too, the perk there. But yeah, it got me through that really challenging time. It was, if I didn't have movement, I think it would have been a very different story. John Kane from episode 16 asks, what do you enjoy most about teaching others? I love teaching others because just to see a smile on somebody's face at the end of class or even during class just makes my world. So that is why I enjoy teaching the Sweat With Us community, because they just shine when they are moving and when they're working out. And even at the end, when they're tired, they're still smiling and they're still ecstatic. So just kind of making that effect on having that effect on others just gives me so much energy. John also asks, what was your aha moment that made you become a coach? So I was working a full-time role in events and marketing at the time. I had a side hustle of writing a lifestyle column, and they asked me to do a piece on fitness retreats. So I went down to Bali, and, it was the trip of a lifetime. It addressed a lot of things in my life. So, I was hitting it hard in my corporate job. I was in events, you have that 9 to 5 day in the office, but then, from 5 onwards, you're running the event at nighttime. Then you have to entertain the clients. So I was kind of doing all of that, like a 12-hour plus working day, but then also hitting the gym at like 5, 6 a.m. in the morning, thinking, like, I'm going to be healthy. I'm going to, wake up. So sleep was totally off balance. Nutrition was a little bit off balance. So being at this fitness retreat did help to address a lot of those issues. So I kept in touch with the guys that ran the retreat. I helped them to rebrand and build a community out here in Hong Kong and also Singapore. And then because I wasn't at every single retreat, I kind of wanted a little bit more for myself. And naturally, I just felt like I'm working out all the time. I might as well kind of do that as a side hustle. So kind of like studied, got my certifications, and then that is when I became a coach. So it wasn't really like an aha moment. It was just kind of like to supplement, what I was doing at the time. But then that kind of all snowballed and it kind of went from there. Very quickly the retreat stuff fizzled and the fitness stuff took over. So that's kind of how I became a coach, and I've never looked back. Ziggy Macon from episode 17 asks, what is one exercise modality that you had a terrible or funny experience with that ended in disaster or that you wouldn't do again? I wouldn't say that it was a disaster, and I've done it a lot of times, especially over the pandemic. But wake surfing is something that I'm not sure I would rush to do again. I did really, really, really enjoy it the first time I did it. It was this huge adrenaline rush, and there's something about being on the water, being in the ocean that makes me super happy. But I think it's like it's the starting point when you're in the water, your feet are strapped to the board, and you're kind of like angled where your head is supposed to be sticking out of the water, but mine does not. I just sink, and no matter how hard I try using my arms to kind of stay afloat, I sink, and it just gives me so much anxiety. But I would definitely do it again. I would never rule out something because movement in any form makes me super happy. But yeah, wake surfing is something that I don't know that I would rush to do it soon. From Jack Thomas in episode 22, he asks, what's one thing that you wish every coach and instructor did every single time to enhance the member experience? I would say that referencing somebody's name directly, to me, is something that I really hold a lot of value to. I'm not super great at it. But I know that like during a class, if I'm working my ass off and someone the instructor gives me a little shout out, I'm happy and it makes my world. Like you could be having the worst day and you go into your class and you just want to like move and like sweat it out and sweat it off. And when the coach is like, yeah, You go, Abby. It can just change the tune of your day. So I would say that that is something that holds a lot of weight. Drew Cox from episode 20, he asks, when do you or how do you lose yourself and experience moments of being absolutely present? That feeling of communicating with God that we had discussed. I don't want to sound like I am advertising here, but whenever I do family form or teach a family form, in particular, when I teach a family form class, I feel super in my body and super in my mind and super tuned in because there's so many different elements happening. You know, you are doing the routine correctly. You are making sure that everyone else is doing the routine correctly and following along. You are making sure that, you know, if you have virtual students, that the screen is still on behind you. You are making sure that your sweat is not in your eye. You know, you're battling that. You're making sure that you're not slipping all over your sweat. So there's a lot of stuff going on. You're playing the DJ, you're playing the coach, you're playing the motivator. And because I'm not speaking all the time, it is challenging to kind of still connect with the people in the room. So I would say that I am the most dialed in to my whole self when I am teaching that class. And, you know, it's like moving meditation as well. So it kind of gives me something extra. It gives me something to kind of go off on. He also asked a follow-up question, and he asks, how often do you go there? And is that as often as you like or need even? And if not, what stops you? I mean, I teach the class every week, a few times a week. But I would say that outside of the class, I would probably need to connect with myself in that way a little bit more. And it's something that I would like to do a little bit more, is to have my own movement practices that are outside of the classes that I teach. Because I think that when I move, I inhabit my body. I own every piece of it. I own my mind. I own my heart. And I definitely don't move for my own sake as much as I should. I don't know about you guys. From Katya in episode 23, she asks about my future aspirations. She asks, where do you see your relationship with movement heading in the next few years? And what new practices or experiences are you excited to explore? I would say that I see my relationship with movement continuing to evolve. When I was teaching more, I feel burning myself out. And so now, as we kind of enter this kind of realm of fitness for longevity, I feel that I'm kind of like looking after, like moving more smartly, like weight training, balancing it out with like stretching a lot more, doing my physio a lot more. And I feel that like, just as a general overview, I feel that I will definitely start looking into owning a movement space. And I'm excited to develop my background, my offerings. So I want to learn how to teach a lot more programs to kind of, to supplement my movement development. From Brad in episode 24, he asks, what question are you trying to answer most in your life right now? That's a pretty deep one. I would say that the question that I'm trying to answer the most is, am I enough? We live in a world with Instagram and social media, and there's a lot to compare yourself out there. And I'm definitely guilty of comparing myself to people, other podcasters, other fitness trainers, other people in life. It's not a question that I need answering exactly. It's definitely a work in progress. But yeah, that is something that I am asking myself. He also asks, what is a dream you've let go of? I've let go of becoming an actor. I went to drama school when I was a teenager, and I was put off by the competitiveness. Everyone was asking, who's your agent and what auditions have you got lined up? And actually, I was just there to learn and have fun. So I've always had dreams of, I used to watch the Academy Awards, and I would dress up like I was a nominee, and I would dress up my dolls and my stuffed toys. like we were at the ceremony, and I have fond memories of that. I would implore all of you out there, if you have a dream, to just go for it. So yeah, that is one of the dreams that I have let go of. Maybe in life I'll have a breakthrough at 50 years old. But from Eileen and Tiara, they ask, why do you move? Movement makes me feel alive. It makes me feel free. Suddenly, all those worries that you have, all those comparisons that are going on, they mean nothing. I forget about them. They're not even there. And so probably that's why as well, like I move as much and I'm so passionate about exercising and fitness, because I think that it just gives me a sense of freedom and it feels amazing. They also ask what movement means to you. And yeah, I mean, movement is freedom to me. Movement is everything. It's my non-negotiable. It's my self-care routine. It's a morning routine. I do stretching after my meditations. You know, I have to move. And if I'm not moving, then I feel like I'm not existing. They also ask, what has been the best decision you have made? And I feel that is a no-brainer. That the best decision I ever made was to go fitness. Yeah, it helped me at a time where I was kind of burning myself out, and to kind of, if I can just affect at least one or two people in the entire time I've been doing it, then that is great. I'm going to ask myself a question as well, and those are 10 lightning round questions. So my go-to sweat, my go-to workout is a dirty, dirty, dirty workout. Like a really long, hard, like CrossFit style workout where there's a lot of weights, there's a lot of burpees, you've got a lot of reps to complete. You don't know how long it's going to take you to do it, but you just got to get through it. So something like High Rocks is right up my street. Go-to self-care ritual, I would say that my go-to self-care ritual is, right now it's cold plunge. I have become a little bit obsessed, especially with like how long I can last in the cold plunge. You guys all know the feeling of like numbness you get when you're in the cold. And yeah, I just like have a little internal game, a little mindset with myself about how long I can be in there. My go-to treat meal is tacos. Tacos, everything. Hard shell, soft shell, super good. My go-to travel destination, I'm going to say Surigao, just because a week there was the best reset. Great food, island vibes, love it. Go-to morning routine, I've already told you my morning routine, AG1 and guided meditations, and then a dynamic stretching to finish it off. I don't often get to do it, but I don't often get to do all three, but at least one of them. Go to recovery practice. I would say my recovery is just based on doing nothing. I'm walking around, moving around, running around, interacting with people on a daily basis. So to recover, I just need to not be around anybody and just lie and watch and read and just be. My go-to workout music playlist has got to be Beyonce. My go-to book has got to be Mindset by Carol Dweck. Life-changing. Go-to mantra or life motto, I think I've said YOLO. So YOLO. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode. It's been super fun to answer a few questions and having the tables turned around on me. Thank you so much, and we will see you soon.